I was seeing the shirts that he was wearing on that first Not in This Lifetime tour, and they were rad. Like, they were very like, evocative of BDSM stuff and old, like vintage kind of pornography and war stuff. And they were loud and they were big graphics, and you could see them from the back of the arena and you could see them from the front row. And so I just thought, how can I get in there? And at the time, my brother was in this indie horror surf film called Ghost Babe. Shout out to Ghost Babe. And they were filming it in Ohio. And this is when I'm doing shit for Post Malone and Billie Eilish. And I just remember that Braden Bacha, who was the guy who was directing the film and producing it with his wife, his brother was on Axl Rose's team. And so Braden needed some songs that I'd written with my brother for his punk band, DM Tina and the Bumps. And I thought, well, I'll give him these songs and maybe I'll just be able to ask for a kind favor, and maybe he'll connect me with his brother and we'll just see how that goes. And so he connected me with his brother, Brant, just through text. And I pitched him on some of the stuff I had done before. And they were so cool, just within, it was like, yeah, this sounds great. We'll send you a box of shirts and we'll see how it goes and see if Axl likes them. So they're going on this Not in This Lifetime Part 2 kind of tour in the US. And this is in September, I believe, of 2019. And at the time, Post Malone just releases Hollywood's Bleeding. And he's got this sold out arena tour going. And so I'm pumping out shit like all day, working on pants for him for all these tour stops. And then the Billie Eilish thing pops up with that Saturday Night Live. And that's like right in the same time frame. So I'm like, fuck, I need these shirts really bad. I need them really fast, because I like to say, I'm not Chipotle. I can't just throw a bunch of paint on something and make it happen really fast. Like, I'm a very, for better or worse, a way too critical, a way too detail-oriented creative person. And so I'm waiting for these shirts, and I know that, his team, Vanessa and Brant, are putting together all this stuff, and I'm just really garnish. If anything happens on my end, it's just garnish. They've all got all these shirts ready to go, ready to rock for this tour. And then within about a couple days of the launch, I get this box of shirts, and I've been looking for these shirts, been waiting for them. I've been communicating with the team, and they're coming, but I'm not getting this box of shirts. And then I go outside one day and I look on my balcony, and like tucked away behind one of my chairs is a fucking postal box that no one's ever put a UPS box there or whatever. So it could have been there for days, whatever. Get this box out, and there's these 5 gorgeous shirts with like gratuitous thread counts, and they're fucking gorgeous. They're probably like $200 shirts just as blanks. And I get a text also from them going like, hey, can we have these ready before they're playing this secret show at the Palladium? And by the way, do you want to come and be on the guest list? And I'm just like, this little kid is losing his fucking mind. But I'm a professional and I'm focused, and I'm like, yeah, I can get this done. But I don't have much time to put together these ideas. And I had a couple things that I was told as far as cue cards that are references that Axl was into, and it was like very, very quick. But it was like, he's into girls, guns, and war, and something along those lines. And so I'm trying to come up with something visually that will satiate what they want and maybe get on Axl's radar and have him be like, fuck, this is a great shirt. So I had this one idea for Post Malone that he didn't end up wearing, which was this neon woman with this kind of Amsterdam red light district motif. And I was like, that never got worn. That thing is sick. It's in the Guns N' Roses color palette. Like, let me just make this thing. So I made that. And then at the time, Axl was really trolling Trump on Twitter. And like, I was like, all right, maybe if I make something that's kind of tongue in cheek around that, it'll be on his radar and he'll really be stoked about that. And so I made this one that was like Don Corleone, and it said like the real Don, because at the time, Trump was being pitched as this mob boss and like this wannabe Don Corleone. And then I made another shirt with this like a bloody peace sign, because Axl, when he's performing, a lot of times he has that thing that's, evocative of, Nixon, that kind of gesture. But he's just had that in his performance for so many years. And so I made those 3, and they were done like the night before, and I drove to the Palladium right before it was, while they were sound checking, and there was fans lined up around the block, and I didn't know how to get in. And I learned, from kind of growing up around some professional musicians, if you act like you belong backstage or in like, beyond the security line, just say, I'm here to pick up some credentials for ... And, they parted the seas of the people, of all the fans that were, you know, they were dressed in more black than an ant. You know, it was just all these like gothy looking fans that were out there. And I went in and just said, hey, I've got a delivery for Axl Rose. And they just opened the doors, and I went in there and could hear them sound checking Brownstone, which was so surreal. You know, like you could hear Duff and Slash and the rest of the guys just like reverberating through the brick wall of the Palladium in Hollywood. And, you know, I handed off the shirts to Brant, and he said, okay, cool. You know, thank you so much. And like, again, super sweet people working for Axl, you know, like no ego, just really polite and very generous. And they said, you know, I'll show him to Axl and see what he thinks. And, you know, or hopefully he'll like them, and, you know, something. And I just said, okay, cool. And I didn't know if it was going to be now or if it was going to be on tour. All I knew is that I was coming back to the fucking Palladium, and I was going to get in line with those people, and I was going to see the show. And so I ended up taking my kid brother, who's a huge GNR fan and has the Appetite Cross tattooed on his arm. And, you know, the Mars brothers walked the red carpet with no one giving a shit about us. But, you know, we couldn't have been happier, and go in and buy a couple overpriced cans of PBR and kind of just sit and wait in the middle of the crowd and try to figure out what's going to happen. And then they come out, you know, you wanted the best. Well, they didn't fucking make it.
Right.
So here's what you get comes out. And then they just kick into fucking
It's So Easy.
It's So Easy. And Axl comes out, and he's wearing some shirt with something that looks like a butterfly and a woman or something. And it's not my shirt, but I'm getting buzzed. I don't care. You know, I'm so stoked. And then like midway through the set, you know, he shuffles his shirts about every 3 songs, and he comes out, goes on the side stage, kind of chills, put on a new shirt. And like midway through the set, I'm like, God, like my shirts look pretty rad. Like if he sees them back when he's going over there, like I just got some weird sensation midway around the midpoint of the show. And it was right when it was with Rocket Queen was coming out. And I just got like goosebumps. It was like Jedi shit. You know, it's like if you watch Star Wars enough, like someone was communicating and being like, get ready for the next second of your life and what happens. And Axl comes out and he's doing, you know, his signature snake walk along the stage, but his back is to the crowd. And I can't remember because if it was in the midpoint of the song when he goes off and they're doing the solo and they kind of switch the song, or if it was at the beginning, but he swings wide and he's wearing that Neon Woman shirt. And I was just like, holy shit, this is so, you know, full circle moment. And I was so stoked. And my brother's like tripping on shrooms. And I'm like, Alex, look, he's wearing my fucking shirt. And he's just like, oh my God. And I pull out my phone. He's like, oh my God. And to his credit, if you go back in time a couple days, I'm working, like I said, on, you know, 3 clients' projects, all in my little crammed studio space. And I bring my brother in. I don't tell him that I'm working on these shirts for Axl yet, because I don't want him bugging me. And I don't want him like freaking out. And I bring him in and I make the Neon Woman t-shirt, and it's just in grayscale at this point. It's just black and white, and it looks sick. It's like Raiders colors. Like it looks really rad and looks vintage. And I show it to my brother, and he comes in and he's like half baked, and he's like, okay. And I'm like, is this cool? Like, do you think this is cool as is? And he goes, well, who's it for? And I go, it's for Axl Rose. And he's like, whoa. And he goes, dude, if it's for Axl, you should make it the best you can. And I was like, that's like a hippie bumper sticker. Like, you know, if you're making it for someone special, make it the best you can. And so I just like put it in gear, and I made it that red and yellow, and I airbrushed it and made it really sick. And so that was the first shirt that he came out wearing. And so he wears that for, you know, he wears that for Rocket Queen, You Could Be Mine, which is one of my favorite songs, and wears it for another song. And then Duff does Attitude, and Axl leaves the stage. And I'm just like, all right, I'm cooked. This is one of the coolest little creative resume fillers I've ever had. And then he comes out and it's Civil War, and it's really dark, and they do the intro. And then I see him turn around, and Axl's got the big hat on, you know, like looking like the most badass cowboy that ever was. And he turns around and he's wearing the bloody peace sign shirt, like back to back. And he wears that for, you know, a couple other songs. And I was just so fucking stoked at that point on just where I was creatively. Like, I mean, I was levitating. At 5'8", I was probably about 6'9" that day.